This is another training session from the Network of Resources webinar series. I'm Zainab Guerrao, and I'm here today with my colleague Federico from the ESA side on behalf of the Network of Resources initiative. And we're very happy today to host Hervé Comment from Terradoué, who's going to give us a presentation about Geohazard exploitation platform. I don't know if all the participants are familiar with the initiative, but again, very quick reminder, the Network of Resources is an ESA initiative that promotes the use of cloud platforms and services for Earth observation data exploitation. So we have onboarded a number of cloud providers that give you access to their platforms and services and help you to work with Earth observation data to build your applications. And the NOR, or the Network of Resources Initiative, is specifically supporting the development of applications for educational, research, scientific, and pre-commercial applications. So we have a portfolio where you can find all of these services that my colleague Federico will present at the very end of the presentation. You can discover them, compare them, and eventually ask for sponsorship from ESA if you want to use any of them. And so today, Hervé is going to be presenting, as I said, Geohazard exploitation platform. Last week, we had a very nice overview of ELIP platform that is also provided by Terradoué. And Geohazard exploitation platform is powered by ELIP. So we're having a deep dive into Geohazard Tab today. I hand it over to you, Hervé. And if you have any questions, please write them to us in the chat. We will take them at the end of the presentation. And back to you, Hervé.
Thank you so much, Zainab. Yes, so today this is an overview for the Geohazard exploitation platform. I'm Hervé Comment, Operations Manager at Terradoué. And the presentation will span over roughly 40 minutes with a short overview of the purpose and the users and stakeholders and offer, and then more detailed insights about the tools and services. So as a start, let's go through the overview of why we operate JEP and what is the role of Terradoué. So Terradoué is a SME based in Rome, founded in 2006 with the support of the European Space Agency Business Incubation Center. So we are a spin-off of ESA, and from day one providing support to application builders in Earth sciences to use EO satellite data as their information source. As Zainab introduced, JEP, as a few others, is a platform which is powered by a technology developed by Terradoué, which we brand as ELIP. And they are all the tools and services supporting the cloud infrastructure and web services interoperability, which are powering community platforms such as JEP. So for that, we deliver cloud platform as a service and APIs through ELIP. And we manage the transfer in production of scalable software applications, which in JEP are the EO data processing services. The business model is platform-centered, and we deliver platform as a service, but also software as a service as a collaborative workplaces for value adders to interact together and co-create. So the Geohazards exploitation platform is as an entry point. So the portal is the gateway to enter all the services for the Geohazards community. And we have a number of stakeholders, key stakeholders, which have been funding the development of JEP, but also more recently, which are funding the onboarding of large science community users. So that's the service. JEP itself is free for the scientific users at the user entry point. So there is a subscription-based business model for JEP. So far, we had the European Space Agency and the Asian Development Bank as the main community sponsors. But we do have also direct customers paying Terradoué for accessing and consuming cloud resources for data processing. We have a governance board, which is including the JEP services provider. It means we are on a collaborative workplace where we onboard experts with their knowledge of EO data and algorithms. And so those expert organizations, here you see the French EOST lab in Strasbourg, Aristotle University of Thessaloniki, and the IREA laboratory in Italy. So they are examples of service providers onboarded on JEP. The platform itself is based on the virtualization and federation of resources. We leverage cloud compute power from third-party providers, and we access remotely the Copernicus Sentinel's mission data, as well as a number of historical missions, for instance, CRS and VSAT, and other high-resolution EO data missions like Pleiad, Cosmos Ganymede, TerraSAR-X, or ALOS-2. And we are partnering with a number of international initiatives to federate data access for these communities, like the Committee on Earth Observation Satellites, and Geohazards super sites and natural laboratories, or the European Plate Observing System, EPOS. For the data processing on the cloud from JEP, we have two main modus operandi. One is the on-demand processing services. So as a user, you select a processor, you define the parameters, and you start a job run. And we can also configure for customers what we call systematic processing service setups, where we plan to process a large archive of data spanning multiple years of acquisition typically, and this will run on the cloud until the completion of the processing campaign. We have about 200,000 processing CPU hours per year on JEP, consumed by individual users, about 5,000 data processing jobs per year. It's for the users, it's about over time 350 active users that have been accessing data processing services on JEP. They were conducting projects on the platform over the years with advanced access to all the EO data processing service, the publishing results of the results, and they were providing feedback also to improve the service. This is for subscribers, but you can register on JEP and use JEP as a visitor. For that, you will be supported to search EO data missions from our catalog to access the shared results out of the processing jobs shared publicly and any public information layers. And so far, we have about 3,000 registered visitor accounts. So when you reach the landing page of geohazards-tep.eu, on the home page, you have a number of news accessible from our blog and from our Twitter account, and a number of shortcuts, which I will detail. So one of the main menus to access the resources on JEP is the workspace menu. If you are a visitor, you will basically access two open, free and open thematic applications, the one operated by the EPOS community and the other one operated by TerraDoué, which is compiling all the free access resources, which we call the global app. You can also join communities where we curate data per topic, per thematic. So, and currently we have volcanic hazards, seismic hazards, landslides, and land subsidence. And another key page that I will further detail today is the web store, where we present how to subscribe, either through a direct purchase or through a sponsoring program. Currently, the ESA, European Space Agency Network of Resources program, which Federico will detail afterwards. And we present our commercial offer, so the JEP services portfolio, where we have basically three categories of EO data processing services. Under the basic subscription, you will get access to data screening services, which will basically combine spectral bands to highlight phenomena and features. Then we have the Essentials subscription, where we group basically all the change detection services based on diachronic, mostly diachronic analysis. So before event image and the after event image. And finally, we have the advanced subscription where we provide access to long time series analysis services. To be noted for people being sponsored by NOR that they have by default access to a Flex subscription, which is equivalent to Advance, which is the sum of the long time series or area monitoring services, event response services, and data screening services. So far, we have 28 data processing services part of this portfolio, and Flex is for the NOR sponsored users. Just to mention that we are preparing a new offer. It is scheduled for April 2024 this year, and we'll focus on next generation new data processing services. It means that the list of services that you see here will be maintained as much as possible, but with some few changes. And new PSI, persistent scatters, interferometry, post-processing tools. Now about, let's deep dive on the JEP tools and data processing services. So when you join one of these thematic apps, which we also call Geohazards applications, you have a screen structure, which is on the top right, a number of data contexts where you can switch the data source that you want to render on the map, which is in the middle, number 2. On the left hand item 3, you have all the details of the data sources that you are filtering via search and query filters, and from which you can select item you want to focus on, either directly on the map for visualization or as an input for the processing services, which are on the right-hand side. So a number of apps or icons, which are each the entry point to a data processing service, and that you can feed with the data selections you have done through the previous cycle 1, 2, 3. Quick focus on the data context menus. So you have typically in each thematic app Earth observation data menu where we aggregate the catalogs of EO missions connected to JEP. To be noted that the JEP processing services are using the API of this catalog service to interoperate and get the data feeds they are going to process. Then you have an EO-based products menu generally, where we curate the already processed information layers. Here you have a few examples of what we have been doing in the past by processing Sentinel-1, Sentinel-2, or Landsat L8 data. You do have also a community menu where a number of information layers are managed. Scientific publications located on the map with links to the papers, terrain motion demo where we try to demonstrate all the new features of JEP through some flagship data products, and the shared jobs and shared products shared by the community of the users. This is a little insight into a thematic app through what we have on the documentation page, the tutorial. So each processing service is documented through a tutorial. So we have an example here. So typically you start the tutorial by selecting your processor. You will do that from the thematic app on the right-hand side. You see here that you have a list of processors available to you. Then you select the files to process, which are typically EO data files. You can drag and drop from the catalog search those results as an input parameter to your processor parameters form, and then run the job and monitor the progress until the completion. And for successful jobs, you have a button show results, which will print the results on the map for visualization, and which will provide you with a number of product downloads features. So after that, I have a short video, about 5-6 minutes, where a number of data management items and tools are presented. Access to dedicated thematic apps, which are providing custom access to data spaces, then the possibility to upload data sources from third parties, and their styling for cross-comparison with existing information layers on JEP, and finally, how to select an algorithm which is delivered on JEP as a service, software as a service, and running that algorithm in order to share results. So let's start the video, and I will voice over. We have done a quick test, so I believe the sound will be appropriate. So the first part here is about listing all the thematic apps in your workspace, the ones you are subscribed to. You select one and you will load this Geohazard app. So you have the data context on the up right, the map, and when you search for a place name, typically, here we illustrate the capacity to load all the data products registered for that place name. So for that configuration, the results list is on the bottom instead of being on the full left-hand side. Then with this data, you can work out additional layers that you can find typically here on the USGS on the internet, on the USGS website. So they are big ground velocity products, typically interesting to be overlaid on top of an interferogram here. This is uploaded on your cloud personal storage space on JEP. And now the user is supported to configure this information layer. You see the overlay in red, the PGA overlay in red, and you have access to the detail velocities, and you can focus on some of these and perform some analysis on the epicenter of the event. So the tool for this functionality is generic, of course. We were illustrating with one data type. Then, as discussed, you can select a processor. Here we are going to process interferometric pair. So you search the catalog for Sentinel-1 products. You see on the map the footprints of these products. You will be supported to select the best pair, given the master or the reference image, let's say. Then you drag and drop the reference and secondary products as input parameters. You can see all the default parameters for that processor. This is custom for each processor, and you can modify a few of them as you see fit, and then click on job, and this will be started somewhere on the cloud compute infrastructure connected to JEP. So you can leave the session. You can even close your browser and come back later. Depending on the amount of your data products to be processed, it can take a few minutes to some hours or even one day or two, depending on the load on the cluster, on the processing cluster. Here we are accessing the processor results. Again, each processor has its own way to present results. Here we have the wrapped and unwrapped interferograms as outputs. And we have the legend, of course, showing the displacement estimated by the processor. Those results can be shared with the community or with individual users. Now we are moving to long time series processing. So this is part of the advanced subscription. We illustrate here the piece baths, so they are persistent, small baseline, sorry, so small baseline analysis service. Again, I'm selecting all the acquisitions for a track, here descending track for Sentinel-1, and this is the result of the processing. It's a CSV file in that case. I can download it. I could visualize it. The displacement time series. So this is the first generation time series viewer on JEP. Afterwards, I will introduce you to the brand new time series viewer tool that we have now on JEP. But you can, the basic idea is that you can perform this type of analysis in the first place online on the portal before downloading the time series, the CSV, for instance, and ingesting that file into your own post-processing tools. Nice indeed. And that's it for that video. So as I mentioned, we have a new time series viewer. So what you saw in the video is the EO data catalog, integrated search, the EO data cloud processing with the integrated access to online data repositories, the cloud compute power, and the algorithms delivered as a service from JEP. And now we have indeed a number of new mapping and geospatial information tools integrated on JEP, and especially this new time series viewer. So this is a quick summary. So you have an example here where we cover the full country of Greece. You have a zoom on a specific area, and then you have access to the configuration tool for the visualization. And when you, for example, select a point, an area, or a transect, you will get the time series analysis accessible online and configurable to fine-tune. Here, this is an example for analyzing the result of one of our flagship processing services, which is snapping, persistent scatterers interferometric full resolution service. We do have now I can present you two of these flagship processing services, so you get a better idea of the type of information processing that can be integrated as a service on JEP. So this one is from our partner Université de Strasbourg. This is the ground information monitoring with optical image time series dedicated to landslide analysis, which has two modes, two algorithms for this analysis, MICMAC and GeoFolky, which is configurable by the user. The key features for that service working on optical data is the full time series analysis of individual points. There is no requirement for selecting reference points. It's very fast to start. It is sensitive to large magnitude deformation, and it is sensitive to north-south displacement. You have in this flyer, which is available online on JEP, summary on how to use the service. You have an example. And then we give Sorry, it was too fast. And then we give a summary on the key benefits, the key user benefits by using the service, and how to subscribe, and an idea of the cost when you subscribe and want to run processings using the service. We do the same for snapping. So snapping is a persistent scatter analysis tool, so which is provided on JEP in 3 stages. First, you will run the interferogram generation, the snapping IFG stage 1. It will allow you to set up or eventually update an interferometric stack associated to your user account and your cloud storage on JEP. Then you will perform a delivery of all the differential interferograms so that they are made available for the final stage, which is the persistent scatter interferometry, and which will compute the displacement time series. And again, we provide an overview of the processing chain, all its multi-temporal features, the capabilities to easily generate and update an interferogram stack, and the details about the algorithm, like here, for instance, it is based on both Snap toolbox and the Stamps software. So as a complement to this, because we have seen the outcome of the work of 2 services providers participating as stakeholders to JEP by delivering their know-how for users via JEP. So there is a possibility to join as a service provider. So if you have a unique or novel processing algorithm for EU data, you can see JEP as relevant to you for delivering that solution online. So this is done by accessing a subscription, also sponsored by the NOR voucher and sponsorship program. And there is, as mentioned, a related webinar, which I did last week about ELIP, where you can see the details, but I will give you today a quick overview in 2 minutes about how it goes. So when you join such a subscription as a service provider, you will be onboarded for integrating an algorithm that will be published on JEP in this case. So as an ELIP user, you are supported with a number of services to prototype, integrate, and deploy your application. We start with ELIP notebooks, where you are supported with an online Jupyter Lab environment and a number of application templates. This can have multiple usages, but here for that use case, it's about prototyping your algorithm and testing it with our cloud APIs. Afterwards, you will be guided to our new ELIP Studio solution, where you can have training from us to learn how to work with a new standard promoted by the European Space Agency and the Open Geospatial Consortium. Currently, this is the best practice for Earth observation application packaging. So this it helps to produce a containerized algorithm natively compatible for cloud deployments, embedding all the APIs required for working with JEP, which are the catalog APIs and the EU data processing APIs. So here the user is launching the Ellipse Studio workspace. And in that workspace, we provide you with application template to build such an application, EO Earth Observation application package. You load your algorithm typically from a Git repository, and you start wrapping this algorithm with our guidance. There are a number of wrappers, code wrappers to be defined. Then you will get a standard structure for your processing service that can be built and stored on the platform as a cloud resource available for cloud deployment. So on JEP and on Ellipse, we support multiple cloud providers. So together we select with your sponsor, eventually we select the cloud provider. And again, you are supported. Here again, this is through a Python notebook to perform the deployment, the operational deployment, which will make your algorithm available as a service on JEP. Voilà for the videos today. I will conclude the presentation by a few use cases. So we've seen that on JEP we are working with researchers as user or as algorithm providers. We have also stakeholders which are sponsoring the JEP access to user communities. We do work also with data providers interested to connect their data offer on JEP. And one key use case on JEP is the open science use case. So I have here one illustration which I took from one of our thematic applications. The EO for Alps landslides community was, for instance, sponsored by the European Space Agency. And over multiple years, it gathered experts over this Alps region. And here for this open science use case, you see on JEP you can share a data product. Here, this is the Squeezer product by Tre Altamira. And of course, you can visualize, zoom in, and analyze in detail the product, and then open a tool set that will show you all the product metadata. And we provide links so that you can share and relate to that product the scientific publication here, for instance, so which is accessible from the same place as the product, discussing the elaboration of this product. And then you have the download option for retrieving the files locally and ingesting the file or comparing the file with other data sets. Then we have a number of interesting use cases which are coming from another webinar series we did. This one also funded by the European Space Agency. It's available online on our YouTube channel, which is titled Videos by Teradue. You have the link here. And we did last year 3 webinars presenting, inviting experts and scientific speakers. And so we have one which was done in December 2022 about monitoring wide area subsidence from space. There was an introduction about the INSAR techniques, and then an invited speaker, Dr. Francesca Signa, about subsidence risk maps, and of course using JEP and JEP processing services. So you can have a look at this video. There are a number of examples for that use case. I just want to highlight from this first one, because this is a generic approach, that there is an introduction to Earth observation concepts and techniques at the beginning of each of these webinars. The second webinar was held on January last year about monitoring infrastructures. In particular, we invited AIT speaker from Indonesia about their post-earthquake building stability monitoring activities. So you had in this webinar use cases discussed about, this was in the introduction, the terrain motion study over build-up areas of the Nile Delta. There was another, but there are a number of use cases actually, so I picked up only two for illustration. The monitoring of building and infrastructure in Palu area in Indonesia, also based on the use of the PSI snapping service. And finally, we had a webinar on May last year on monitoring landslides, again with an introduction on the EO, this time INSAR and optical services and EO techniques. And two invited speakers, one Dr. Thierry Piquefer about the detection of slope instabilities in the Swiss Alps, and another one by Dr. Deodato Tapete and again Dr. Francesca Signa about the coastal landslides and ground instability in southern Italy. So just to highlight, in the introduction we had a discussion about a use case for irrigation-triggered landslides in Peru. And we had also a presentation of the EO4Alps landslides community that I have used for the first use case to illustrate our open science use cases. And you can find all the other details by accessing the videos. So now I'm going to conclude the webinar. So a few minutes on all the JEP resources that are available to help you start with JEP. So first of all, you can quickly register an account, and this will allow you to start using JEP with a visitor user account. So you go to the portal, you have on the top right this register link, which will send you to our TerraDoe corporate portal, which is the identity management service that is common to all our community portals. You register your account and you will start as a visitor. Then if you want to discuss account upgrades with us, you can directly email us to contact@geohazards-step.eu. From the homepage of the portal, of the JEP portal, you have this tutorials icon, which will give you direct access to all the processing services tutorials for JEP. And you see on top of this processing tutorials section, you have also the general documentation about the platform. So how to join a community, how to access your processing jobs. All the documentation is available online in a simple way from this icon tutorial on the home page. Of course, you will see other links on the portal to access the documentation. There is also on the home page this forum icon. It will give you direct access to our JEP blog, which is quite an active blog year after year, and a number of informative publications about new partnerships, strengthening the JEP community, or new events, or new results available on JEP. Then when you are subscribed, you are supported by the operations support team at TerraDoe. We provide you with a customer service portal where you can log tickets, questions about your issues. And you can typically register a ticket for an issue, a general issue with the portal, or an issue with one of the processing services you are using. And to be noted that you have also the possibility to directly create a ticket with a wizard. Here you have a template which is automatically activated on JEP when one of your processing services fails. At the end of the job information tab, you have a button that will open this form with all the pre-filled information of the job you have run, and you can edit this to ask us a question about the failure that you want to address. And we do our best to help you analyze the cause of the failure, and guide you for resubmitting your job, hopefully this time to get a successful result. And finally, we also have a platform team at Teradue where we basically guide you for getting a subscription. You can also access this email from the menu. Besides the register link, you have this contact link. And we will advise you on selecting processing services from the JEP portfolio and on the budgeting for the processing costs of your study area. There is on the web store also at the end of what I have presented, there is also a more detailed view of all the services and the price list that is a PDF file that you can download from that web store page where you have all the price lists and details for the costs. So once you are registered, you have the possibility under your user profile page on JEP to monitor your data processing activities. There is a usage tab with your daily usage, all the input products processed per service. The input products are typically the unitary measure that we are using to control to track the costs. And you can monitor also your overall monthly subscription via a consumption report available also here from the application scenario tab of your user profile. So you saw quickly before a few numbers about the cost and prices. Here I give, I think I have a few minutes to discuss. Yes, 2 minutes left. So typically you can ask the platform team for guidance on subscriptions. Here I give the example for long time series processing, which is our most expensive category of a processing service on JEP. And you will get figures like for PISBAS multi-temporal analysis job, let's say a time series processing 100 Sentinel-1 input products. The cost is 7.5 euros per input, so a total of 750 euros for that processing job. And similarly, but if you remember, I introduced that there are different steps for snapping. So we price the first step, the IFG job, where we will assemble pairs for interferograms. So this will also include the second step that will generate those interferograms, and the price here is €5 per interferogram generated. And then taking this as input, we price €9 per interferogram to be processed by the PSI, so the time series analysis stage of snapping. So for 100 inputs, €900 in that case. And as I said, as a general rule, the cost is determined by the number of processing job inputs. Voila, this is done for today. So I think we have time for if there are questions. Otherwise, we can follow up with Federico on the way to get more sponsorship for JEP.
Thank you, Hervé. If you have any questions for the participants, please write them in the chat. I had a quick question. So you mentioned many super interesting use cases, mainly earthquakes, landslides, subsidence. I was wondering if there's any focus among your users and stakeholders on flood monitoring and coastal resilience topics.
There is a connection, and we do have a few processing services which are supporting the mapping of flooded areas. It's not a mainstream activity on JEP.
Okay.
But, for people which are interested by this connection, there is indeed a number of solutions, and you can contact us about this kind of topic.
Okay. And for my own curiosity, I was wondering, so ISA is part of the International Charter space and major disasters. I was wondering if GEP services are reused for operational activations, process activations, in the context of the Charter initiative.
Okay, I'm not sure I said a lot about the International Charter, but indeed, as you know, ESA is a member, of course, of the International Charter for Disasters. It's a number of space agencies federating resources to provide a fast response to events, including geohazards, floods, and we are leveraging our experience with JEP because actually TerraDue is building the Charter Mapper portal, where those processing services that I've presented, or most of them, but also a number of new ones, are provided in the same way. But for the Charter Mapper, the users are only institutional users, which are part of the Charter effort and the international cooperation.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So just to be clear, so for NOR sponsorships, for pay-per-use packages, they have directly access to the Flex offer that is equivalent to the advanced package. So they have access to, including, for example, the long time series processing and everything.
Okay. All the services, yes.
All the services, okay. Okay, I think I will hand it over to Federico for the presentation of the NOR portal. Thank you. Thanks, Hervé.
Thank you.
Let's start from how to reach the Network of Resources portal. You can go to the web address nor-discover.org, where you will be redirected to the Network of Resources homepage with all the useful information to understand what this ESA initiative is about. You can have an overview on the number of approved projects through the Network of Resources, on the providers onboarded inside the NOR portfolio, and the services offered by the Network of Resources. By going to the menu here, you have other useful pages like the news page, where you can see all the news related to the Network of Resources, and the portfolio page, where you can access the Network of Resources portfolio with all the services available through the NOR. You will be redirected to a new web page, and here you have an overview of all the different providers and all the different services. You can search by text searching in this search box. You can also filter all the services by service type, sources, geographical coverage, and so on, or you can just scroll down the list until you find what you're looking for. For instance, we are looking for the Geohazard tab, and here we have useful information related to the services available through the Geohazard tab. We have details here, the collections available through this TerraDue service, and a link to the provider help desk. Really helpful at the beginning of your project, because it's important that when you ask for a specific service through the Network of Resources, you are sure that this service is helpful for your project goals. So what we advise is to contact first the provider to understand if this service is really useful for your project. Then, by going to the pricing wizard, you will be redirected to the form that you need to fill out to ask for the services through the NOR. Let's start with the project type. You have 4 different types: commercial, research, pre-commercial, and educational. Only research, pre-commercial, and educational projects are eligible for ESA sponsorship. Let's say we are working on a research one. And here we have an overview of all the different services available from TerraDue. Here we can ask by clicking on a tick box for a specific service. We can change the number of units, we can change the duration, and so on. And we have an overview of the cost. At the bottom of the page, there will be a summary of the costs that we are requesting through this form. For instance, in this case, here we have this overview, and then two different possibilities. The first one is to ask directly the provider for these services by going to the provider website, or ask ESA for a sponsorship. Here we need to select if we are working or not for an ESA project. If we are, we need to have an ESA official contract number and an ESA technical officer. Let's say we are not working on an ESA project, and if we are going to co-found or not the cost. This is important because non-ESA projects are eligible only to up to 5,000 euros of sponsorship. So if you are requesting more resources, then you need to state that you will co-found the cost. In this case, let's say we are not co-founding the cost, and then we ask ESA for sponsorship. This will redirect us to the form itself, where we need to state the project title, the name of the project coordinator, the project coordinator work category, the official email address. It's important that must be an organization email address. We cannot accept personal email addresses for services funded by the network of resources. Then the project organization name, country, web page, and address. Then we need to fill out all the parts related to the project itself, starting from the project objectives, which are the project goals and so on, the implementation methodology that you are going to use to reach these objectives, and the expected results. Then we need to see the justification for selected services and provider, and this is why we advise you to first contact the provider in order to fill this field with a justification that tells us why you need this specific service. A description of work within the cloud environment, really important because the scope of the network of resources is to bring user to data and not the contrary. So we want to see that you will work within the cloud environment provided by the service provider. Then the geographical area of interest of the project, if you're working over a city, over cities, region, country, multiple countries, and so on. If it's the first time that you have applied to the network of resources sponsorship or not, if it's not the first time, you will need then to state here the previous request ID. If we are working on an ESA project, here there will be a section related to the ESA contract number, ESA technical officer, and so on. Then you have an overview of all the services you are requesting through the network of resources. And the last thing that you need to fill out is the expected date of submission of the set of slides in the format month and year. What is the set of slides? Is a set of 4 to 5 slides done in PowerPoint or any PowerPoint-like software, where you clearly state why the services provided by the network of resources were helpful for your project. We don't want to see the results of the project itself. Let's say you worked on the project and you didn't reach your final goal, which is possible if you're working on, for instance, on a research project. But what is important is that you state why and how you used the resources that you requested through the network of resources. Then you can or cannot sign up for the NOR newsletter, and you must accept the ESA privacy policy. The last thing that you need to do is to export the sponsoring request. It will create a PDF file. You need to download the PDF file, sign it, and if you're working on an ESA project, you need to have the form also signed by ESA technical officer. And then once you have the form signed, you need to email it to the nor-sponsorship-request at esa.int email address. This will then start the evaluation procedure, and it might take up to 6 days. Let's say usually it takes 6 working days to have your request evaluated. If we need more information from your side, we will then contact you and ask for more information, and this will increase the time for having a final decision on your request. That's it from my side. I give back the floor to Zainab.
Thank you, Federico. So please feel free to write to us if you have any questions about the NOR sponsorship, and to Hervé if you have questions about the JEP platform. Thank you, Hervé, for your presentation. Thanks, Federico, and thanks for all the participants. and we hope to see you in the next training session. Thank you.
Thank you.